This clip says they are police officers, but it's unclear who exactly they were firing at. Well, another way of people getting their voices heard outside the country is calling into the website Feb17 Voices. This line allows them to record an audio message, which is then put up on the web. Here's one of them.
The day we left, we had killings, rioting in the streets. I don't know if this was true, but what we heard from people as in reference that some houses, women got raped by them. And so we had to leave that location. Things have been quiet after his speech. Thousands of people left in fear, even if you're anti-government. They went into the streets and they were very scared. They raised up the green flag and started chanting, "Yeah, we want Gaddafi, we want Gaddafi." He announced that with a text message that the schools have been back in order. Everyone should start working. Everyone should go back to their ordinary lives. We heard from terrorists in Benghazi. They said there's supposed to be a march of dozens of people coming towards our way.
Well, we've been hearing reports that the city of Derna is no longer under government control, one of a number of areas. This video, posted to the web, claims to show a group of women. They're holding the so-called liberation flag, protesting in the yard of an old mosque. They're chanting anti-Gaddafi slogans. And in the last few hours, these images have been posted to the website feb17.info. They claim to show protesters in the western city of Misrata no longer under government control. Well, the online community is making a serious effort to document events in Libya, but there are also those with a more satirical view. This cartoon, posted to Facebook, shows a man smoking a traditional shisha or hookah water pipe. The head of the pipe, of course, the torch of the Statue of Liberty, and the man's reaction to the puff of the freedom pipe says it all. Wow. And this picture montage, appearing on the website plixi.com, traces the fall of Tunisia's President Ben Ali. This is followed by the resignation of Egypt's President Hosni Mubarak. And then the montage finally suggests how he might be a little amused by Colonel Gaddafi's current situation. Well, there's plenty more online, and we'll be bringing you more as the day continues. Back to you now, So.
Thanks very much, Tarek. Well, Muammar Gaddafi has always promoted himself as one of Africa's greatest leaders. Now, after a week of violence in Libya, the African Union has condemned his actions against the pro-democracy movement. Yvonne Ndege reports now from Abuja.
The images of violence in Libya have appalled Africans across the continent, as they have the whole world, especially because the man at the center of the crisis, Muammar Gaddafi, has positioned himself as a champion of the continent, vigorously promoting the Pan-Africanist idea of a United States of Africa, one in which he would be president. A continent with one army, one passport, one currency, called the Afro. So what will become of Colonel Gaddafi's vision if he's toppled from power in Libya?
The exit of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya will have some tremendous consequences on the capacity, especially in terms of the tremendous energy and resources that he has dedicated towards ensuring that African unity, or what he calls an African continental government, comes into force.
The African Union, which was to be Gaddafi's vehicle for the idea, ignored him when he was its chairman last year. Despite that, the Libyan leader used his country's vast oil wealth to influence some in the organization, spending billions of dollars on everything from aid, the military, humanitarian and infrastructure projects, to buying expensive gifts and building monuments dedicated to African leaders. Focusing on getting the poorest and most fragile states like Chad, Central African Republic and Niger to buy into his ideas and broaden his popularity. If he goes, the African Union will be seriously out of pocket. The organization released this statement on the crisis.
The AU condemns the disproportionate use of force against civilians and deeply deplores the many human lives lost so far.
Is Gaddafi does go, will he be missed? Unlikely here in Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation, where the Libyan leader recently called for the country to be broken up in order to quell religious violence, leading many Nigerians to dismiss him as mad.
There have been many inconsistencies in how Colonel Gaddafi has positioned the identity of Libya, either whether it's an Arab Islamic country or whether it's a black African country. And I think what he's tended to do is to play the game of a political chameleon, taking on a different shade depending on what is actually supportive of his own objectives, not necessarily in support of Africa or the Arab states.
While he may not be missed, Colonel Gaddafi is one of the last African leaders to remember a continent largely ruled by Europeans. The famous Winds of Change brought that chapter to a close. And whatever the outcome of this crisis, Gaddafi's time as an influential figure in Africa has almost certainly closed as well. Yvonne Dege, AlJazeera, Abuja, Nigeria.
Well, Gaddafi's justice minister resigned in protest at the violent crackdown. Now, Mustafa Abdel-Jalil has told a Swedish tabloid he has proof the Libyan leader ordered the bombing of a US airliner over Scotland in 1988. 270 people died on Pan Am Flight 103. Libyan Abdel Basit al-Magrahi was convicted for the Lockerbie bombing. Rabbi Stephanie Bernstein's husband was killed in that attack. This is her own story in her own words.
My name is Stephanie Bernstein. I'm a rabbi, and my husband Michael was killed in the bombing of Pan Am 103 in 1988. It leaves a big hole in your heart that, that never goes away. My husband was an attorney who worked for the US government, and he worked for an office that hunted Nazis who entered this country illegally after the war. What we heard from the former justice minister is that he, the former minister, has evidence that Gaddafi ordered the bombing and that he was very anxious to get Magrahi back to keep him quiet. And this is exactly what we had been saying. Libya is a police state. We know that. Nothing happens there without Gaddafi's approval. We've been told by my government, by the British government, by business interests, somehow becoming closer to him will reform him, will change him. And I think what the last several days, the last week has shown us is that this is not true. This is absolutely not true. He will stop at nothing. He will kill children. He will kill his own citizens. He doesn't care. I understand that it has to do with oil, but we have to say at some point, there's some things that are more important than that. Gaddafi is responsible for so many murders that we can't even count. The world should hold him accountable. Will the world hold him accountable? I don't know. Will the world hold the other people around him accountable? I don't know.
Stephanie Bernstein speaking there. Well, Yemen's president has ordered security forces to protect protesters after a recent crackdown left at least 11 of them dead. Ali Abdullah Saleh has issued an order to prevent direct confrontation between pro- and anti-government demonstrators. Protests have been going on in Yemen for 2 weeks. On Wednesday, 2 pro-democracy protesters were killed. Well, more than 1,000 Bahrainis have spent a 5th night camped out in the capital's Pearl roundabout as part of protests against the government and the royal family. Tents have been